This information is not intended as legal, health, or nutritional advice. It is provided for informational purposes only. The Natural Health Product Protection Association does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements, views, or opinions presented by guests or attendees. Since 2008, NHPPA has been dedicated to protecting the natural health industry. Our recent campaigning began in June of 2023, and since then, our achievements have been nothing short of remarkable, and it's all thanks to our community. We kicked things off with a national campaign to educate the country, including an in-depth discussion paper written by Sean Buckley, a live legal review, and industry Zoom calls to educate the nation about the risks facing natural health products. This was followed by a campaign to pressure our MPs, where we filled their desks with letters and postcards to educate them and request their support. This campaign led the Standing Committee on Health to hold 2 meetings to discuss Health Canada's proposed changes to our natural health product regulations, garnered mainstream media attention, and contributed to the official opposition incorporating the protection of natural health products into their party platform. Perhaps most exciting, Sean Buckley drafted a private member's bill to repeal sections 500 to 504 of Bill C-47. After consultation with Mr. Buckley, MP Blaine Calkins brought a private member's bill for the same purpose to the House of Commons on December 5th. We are collecting signatures in support of this bill, now called Bill C-368, so if you haven't signed yet, you can find the link on our website. Staying on the topic of petitions, in the fall of 2023, we collected 15,000 new signatures in support of the Charter of Health Freedom, bringing us that much closer to our goal of 250,000. What we're doing is working. We're making a difference, and all of our achievements are credited to your involvement, so we thank you for being part of our community and taking action. Help us help you. If NHPPA's work to protect your natural health product and practice freedom is important to you, please make a one-time or monthly donation by visiting nhppa.org/donate.
Well, hello, my name's Sean Buckley. I'd like to welcome everyone who is joining us live and everyone who will be watching the recording of this after we post it. It's a true pleasure to have you here. And I always personally enjoy, these where we're reporting what we're doing and we're encouraging you to get more involved. I like that for 2 reasons. First of all, I'm really proud of what the team is doing, and we need to get you more and more involved. I'm proud of what you're doing because we're all just doing this together. So I want to thank everyone that's participating. I definitely want to thank everyone who helps support us financially. We're only here and we can make this happen because you graciously support us financially. And if you have been doing so, thank you, and please continue. And if you haven't, please do. We're a very efficient team, and it's quite incredible what's happening. But the reality is this self-care framework and these initiatives, it's truly the dead end for us if we allow it to continue. I actually think it will continue, and it's only after our industry and our access to these products are largely impacted, where we're all seeing it, that we'll create enough noise that will make it stop. I hope that that isn't the case, but we will win. But we're in a war now, and we can't escape that. And so we've got a long road ahead together, but I'm proud to be walking it with you and really pleased to have you here this evening. I think Veronica, you're going to give us some campaign highlights to launch us into this.
I will, yes. Just before I share my screen and give everyone those quick update numbers, I see that there's lots of chat going on. Thank you to everyone who is saying hello there. I do my best during these calls to watch the chat, but as we go, if you have a question that you want us to answer, please pop it into the Q&A box. That'll make sure that we won't miss it. So give me just one moment. I'm going to pull up my screen and we will go through.
And I'll just say we are going to be taking questions at the end and trying to answer your questions. So it won't be wasted time putting them in the question and answer box.
Absolutely. Okay, so just very briefly, as we did the last few months, we just wanted to share some of the progress that we've made on the various campaigns that we have going on at the moment. And these numbers are specifically from March. We're not quite at the end of April yet, so we won't have those numbers to share with you until next month. But go ahead, Sean.
Veronica, is it the next slide where the numbers come up?
The numbers will come up. Yes, I promise. So just to remind everyone what campaigns we are working on, we've got our Pressure Your MP campaign. This includes a number of different initiatives. So folks like yourselves are going in, having in-person visits with their members of parliament, scheduling calls. It also includes handwritten letters, form letters, and then postcards as well. You would have seen some of that in the video off the top of the call today. So that's one of our campaign initiatives. We also are campaigning around Private Members Bill C-368, and that is a bill that aims to repeal sections 500 to 504 of Bill C-47 that apply the $5 million per day fines to natural health product companies. With respect to Bill C-368, we do have an e-petition and an electronic MP letter campaign, so we'll give you some updates on the numbers about those campaigns. And then we also have our Charter of Health Freedom petition. This is our paper petition. We have a goal currently to get to 250,000 signatures. We're currently about halfway there, a spoiler alert for some of these numbers, and it makes us the third largest paper petition in Canadian history. So looking at some of the numbers, we are still sending out a little over 20,000 postcards per week across the country, and that's bringing our total to 850,000 postcards that have gone out. We can't track exactly how many of those are reaching the MP's offices, but as we've said before, we see the pictures that they're sharing on social media with the stacks on their desks, the closets full in their offices. So we know a lot of those you folks are sending into your members of parliament. So thank you for doing that. With respect to our electronic letter campaign, this is the one relating to Bill C-368. During the month of March alone, we saw 95,810 letters sent through that specific system. So thank you to everyone who did that. And by March 31st, our total was just over 305,000 letters that had been sent as a part of that campaign. These are really amazing numbers. I hope you all are as excited to see them as our team always is. Our e-petition signatures, last month we collected 2,311, and our total at the end of March was just over 13,500. And then again, that Charter of Health Freedom petition, we're just a little over 129,000 signatures right there. So as I said, we're a little over halfway to our goal of 250,000 signatures.
So when we're looking at this 95,810 electronic letters, that we can't track the written letters that you write. So those of you who have sent those, you'll know that when you're on our page, we're encouraging you to write actual written letters also, even if you're just printing off the electronic one, because written letters mean more. It's, you get a letter in the mail, that impacts you more than you get an email. So we really encourage you, whenever we do an initiative like this, to remember there's different stages of communication, and an in-person visit is the most impactful. And you're just going to have to get used to that. And then a telephone call is next. And even if it's a telephone call to the staff, trust me, I mean, they are keeping tabs of what the public is saying, and then an in-person letter, and then an electronic letter. So just always keep that in mind. And then we encourage you to do all of those things and do them over and over and over again. You send a postcard, send another one, because it's getting the message. And this is an ongoing, these are ongoing campaigns. And it's, you write 12 letters over 12 months, that's a much different message to your MP or MLA than one letter a year.
Absolutely. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. We just wanted to give you folks a peek into some of those numbers. Those numbers represent the actions that you're taking. Those of you who are here live, who might be watching the replay, all of you engaging on this topic. That's what those numbers represent. So we love to see it. So, and thank you to everyone who is taking those actions.
So Veronica, do you want to launch us now into kind of the new things that are happening?
Sure, let's do that. Let me bring up my screen one more time. I will share another piece that we're working on is a set of pages on our website. I've got them here up on the screen. This one is for Canadian citizens. We have a page like this for every stakeholder group in the natural health industry. So we have one for practitioners as well. There's one for retailers, and there is one for manufacturers in addition to this citizens page. If you're subscribed to our email newsletter, which we encourage you to do, that's one of the best ways to stay up to date with what we're working on. You would have seen this come out to you recently. And these pages basically represent a one-stop shop for everything that you need to understand and you need access to get involved. So it goes through some of the key issues. There's videos on these pages, just a quick 5-minute video to give you a synopsis of the issues, an update on how you can get involved. We've got some frequently asked questions with the answers there. And this is something that I wanted to highlight here because I do get questions fairly often into our general info at inbox of folks saying that they're going out into their communities, they're having conversations about these issues with their community, and they're getting questions that they're not quite sure how to answer. So these are great pages, and this area specifically is a great spot to come where you can answer some of those questions. So, if you're talking to a colleague about the self-care framework and they say, how does this really affect me? Everything you need to know is right here. We've got the bullet points for you, and you can share this with your colleague or your family, whoever you're providing that information to. We've got some of the key takeaways, again, making it really easy for you to understand what the issues are, how you're going to be affected. And then a big part of this is down at the bottom of these pages, we have these nice little forms where you can put in your name, your email address, and we will send to you a citizen action kit. And those action kits contain more than 40 resources right now, and we're adding to them all the time. They're things like a list of all the members of parliament with their constituency addresses and their email addresses. So if you're a person who wants to send a note to every single member of parliament, we're making it easy to do that. We've got form letters in there. There's graphics that you can share on social media. There's short videos that you can share with your community. If you are a practitioner or a retailer, there's things that you can put up posters in your storefront or on the reception desk in your clinic. So wherever you are, whatever niche you're in within the industry, these action kits are tailored for the things that you'll need. And we would encourage you to sign up in that form. Give us your email address there and you'll get an automatic reply. We'll send that action kit directly to your inbox and you'll have immediate access there. And then down at the bottom, things to get you started. If you want them right away, we've got our Charter of Health Freedom petition page. There's a letter. Again, this is tailored to each of the stakeholder groups. So this one is to Canadian citizens. And then there's a quick poster there as well with some of the ways that natural health products are at risk that makes it easy for you to share. Sean, do you want to add anything about these pages and what they represent?
I do. So we're on the citizen page and,
Yes.
we've got a separate page, for example, health food stores. And so it's tailored to health food stores, but very similar. And then another one for, manufacturers. Now, we're obviously targeting health food stores because they've got a vested interest in this and they need to be educated. And people that are accessing them clearly are using natural health products. But let's say you're a business owner and you're not a health food store. If there's any space that you can put our materials up, and we have more materials than this, but if there's any place you can put materials up and get the word out, this is all about expanding the network. And I mean, we need to tie in. I mean, we need to expand the number of people that are putting pressure on the MPs, and we're going to, increase that to some further bureaucrats and the like, and just have campaign after campaign after campaign, which is why we're asking you for your support. We need to build our team. Like we realize we need to be at least 3 times larger by the end of the year to be creating the type of momentum that we think is necessary. So I don't want you to think, wait a second, I'm not a health food store. I'm not a healthcare practitioner. So, well, I'm not going to put these materials up. You might not even think about it. I don't care if, you run a tire shop, put these materials up because, well over 70% of Canadians regularly use these. And these are just people that, agree to that on a survey. It's likely much higher. So, let's do this everywhere. We need everyone involved. And, so here we've got this letter to Canadian citizens, and you're going, well, yeah, but I'm just, I'm retired, I'm at home. Well, why don't you, print out 100 of those, and it probably take you 100, hour and 15 minutes, deliver them around your neighborhood. Like, let's get the word out. That's the whole point. We're in an information war, and we need to figure out how do we get everyone understanding what's going on and participating. So thanks for letting me interrupt.
Of course, absolutely. So for everyone watching, those pages are a great resource. I'll pop some of the links in the chat here in a moment. But again, we do have those resources for all the different niches within the industry. So you can choose the one that fits you best and get access to those action kits, which have dozens of resources in there that will really help you get involved yourself and involve your various communities, whether that's at work or in your faith communities or community centers or in your neighborhood. There's definitely a way for everyone to get involved. All right. Sean, do you want to cover a little bit about Bill C-368, or do you want me to jump into that?
Well, kind of either or. So it's Monday, right?
Monday is currently when that is scheduled for, yes.
I feel like we're in musical chairs. I don't know if the rest of you have been following this, but when a private member's bill actually comes up for second reading, can get bounced around quite a bit. And so the date on this one, has been moving around, but currently it's Monday. And if that goes ahead, you can log in. I don't know if we're going to post a link or something if we think it's actually going to be the time, but you can watch live what's going on in the debates. And that could be interesting. We don't know what the Bloc's going to do. We don't know what a whole bunch of, Liberal MPs are going to do. But we're pretty hopeful because there's been a lot of pressure and we've had a lot of really positive feedback. And so, it's quite exciting. And the pressure that you've put on through these campaigns is quite remarkable. I mean, over 300,000 e-letters. And like I say, we can't track the phone calls, we can't track the in-person visits, and we cannot track the paper letters. So thank you for what you've done, because you have let all 4 parties know that this is an important issue and you want this bill in committee.
Mm-hmm. So if I can rewind a little bit, just for everyone who is listening here, Bill C-368, quick reminder on that, that is the bill that aims to repeal sections 500 to 504 of Bill C-47. That private members bill was brought forward in December by Blaine Calkins and has gone through first reading. The date on Monday that Sean's referring to, that is currently when the first hour of debate for the second reading is scheduled. There will be a second hour of debate at a time to be determined. It could be as early as May, but may also be as late as September or October, depending on how the rest of parliamentary business goes. This first hour of debate for Bill C-368 was originally scheduled for April 11th. So again, if you're part of our email newsletter community, you would have seen us send out something about that and then let you know that it had been postponed and we had a little bit more time. But when we hopefully on Monday are able to watch this first hour of debate, it will be really interesting to see some of the questions that other members of parliament might pose, what the conversation is around this bill, and will give us some insights into maybe where some of the members of parliament still need a bit of education, who we can apply a bit more pressure to. because we are pretty confident that Blaine Calkins is a Conservative MP. It sounds like his Conservative colleagues will be voting in favor of this bill when the time comes after that second hour of debate. But we need 53 more MPs who are not Conservatives to vote yes on that bill in order for it to go through to the next phase, which is to go through to committee. So we need some Liberals, we need the Bloc, we need some NPPs, maybe some Greens in there who are going to be voting yes on this as well in order to get it to committee. Yeah.
I'll just jump in. So
First.
in case somebody hasn't been following, so when Vanessa says it repeals, sections 500, 504, Bill C-47, it's like, well, what the heck is that? So basically, in our last federal budget bill, which I think came into force on June 22nd of last year, the budget bill is meant to basically grease the way for all the federal spending for the next fiscal year, but they snuck in there changes to the Food and Drug Act. So in the Food and Drug Act, there's kind of a different levels of penalties and powers depending on the risk of product. So the risk for food, actually, the penalties can be quite high because food can be quite dangerous, like food poisoning and the like. And pharmaceutical products, it was a higher risk category, higher penalties than natural health products. But they basically imposed the pharmaceutical penalty. So the maximum penalty went up from $5,000 as a maximum fine per offense to $5 million for every day you're in violation. And, that's pocket change for a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer, but I can't think of a natural health product company or a natural health practitioner that could withstand that. And there's a whole bunch of other powers and problems involved with that. So it's quite significant. And it's had a very chilling effect on behavior, where we now have a lot of companies self-censoring because they realize that now the cost for actually sharing truthful health information with you, including things like peer-reviewed journal publications, the cost for them sharing truthful health information with you has become too much for them to bear with these changes. So it's really significant. It's really quite a significant matter. And when we say second reading, so the way changes to a law happen in Canada is a bill's introduced, and that's called first reading. So, people read it for the first time, and then, a later date is set for once people have had a chance to consider, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Then you have second reading, which is really the important one. Now people know what the bill is about. They've had time to consider it. Should this go forward? And if it does go forward, if it passes second reading, and we have to let you know, it's like rarer than hen's teeth that a private member's bill makes it into second reading. I mean, if this happens, it's a significant event. Then it goes into committee, and all that means is for different topics, Parliament has committee. So if this was a finance bill, it would go to the finance committee. Well, this is a health bill, so it goes to the Standing Committee on Health. And that's an all-party committee that just considers legislation within that topic of health and determines, do we recommend any changes? So it's not meant to be partisan. It's like, let's have a hard look at this. Parliament obviously thinks we should have a look at it. It made it into committee. What changes, would we recommend to make it a stronger bill? So it's a really, obviously it's a necessary step, but quite important. And then it comes out of committee, and then it goes to third reading as amended, and or if amended, and if it passes third reading, then it goes to the next house. If it started in the Senate, it goes to the House of Commons for the same process, and if it started in the House of Commons, it goes to the Senate. So it's just want you to understand what's going on and why I'm interested to see what questions are asked. And many of you in your responses from your MPs to letters you've written, some of you have gotten angered about this risk thing. And it's curious, earlier this month, I traveled to Austin, Texas to be on the high wire, and felt a lot of pressure. I had to really get up to speed on what's happening in the United States, more so than I was already. And I re-looked at risk information. So, because it's always relative, right? And I actually got quite angry when I'm looking at risk information and I'm seeing that for every 4 million Canadians, we have on average one, deadly lightning strike a year. So 1 out of 4 million of us on average dies from a lightning strike a year. And now that there's 40 million of us, that means that, on a yearly average, we would expect to have 10 deaths by lightning strikes. And, Health Canada can do all they want in trying to come up with possible cases where, somebody has died of a natural health product, and we can be as, skeptical as we want about it, but they don't come up with one a year, let alone 10 a year. So, and none of us would sacrifice any freedoms or accept any government regulation because we're afraid of lightning. So it just made me realize that as soon as anyone, whether it's Health Canada or an MP, starts talking about risk and connections to a natural health product or the natural product industry, you're being lied to. Like, you're being lied to. Can I say that again? You're being lied to. You know that you're being lied to. So, for food additives, the ultra safe level is 1 death per million. So, I mean, we will accept one, child out of 1 million dying each year so that we can have orange popsicles. And that's considered ultra safe. So 1 death per million is considered so safe that there should be no policy change. We should never talk about it again. It's just too safe for us to waste any time with. And yet the whole natural health product industry is 4 times safer than ultra safe if we compare it with lightning. In fact, it's more than that. So it's just, well, lightning is 4 times safer than ultra safe, and we're even safer than that. So it's just so, de minimis. It is so small that, it's crazy. Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
That's okay. I put a few links in the chat. There is a link to our website that tells you all about Bill C-368, how it came to be, and then also gives you links to the different campaigns that you can take part in with the e-petition and the electronic letters. I also will add, because this is new since the last update that we did, there is now a registered e-petition with the House of Commons. I'm going to throw that link in the chat here as well. So if you have not, please head to that link and you can register your signature there as well in support of Bill C-368. And again, that is registered with the House of Commons, so they will look at that. Is there anything you want to add on that front, Sean?
No, I think we've covered it pretty good.
All right, so that's Bill C-368. A little update there. Let's move on and give some updates on Health Canada's consultation period on cost recovery. We did talk a little bit about that on our last month's campaign update call, because we had just had that consultation meeting with Health Canada the same day as our last update call. But since then, the consultation period they had set was 30 days. They have now extended it to a 60-day consultation period. So that newly extended date for feedback is May 25th. But Sean, do you want to give a bit of the highlights of what that meeting's about and cost recovery in general?
Yeah, I think we should fill this in again. So, the problem we have, the whole thing is called the self-care framework, where their stated goal is complete 100% harmonization with how natural health products are regulated with over-the-counter chemical drugs. So one aspect of that is well, the over-the-counter chemical drug companies, they pay large fees to Health Canada. In fact, in a classic conflict of interest, most of Health Canada's budget comes from the pharmaceutical companies. And you see the obvious problem is you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, even if the hand that feeds you is causing harm to the Canadian populace. And I think it helps explain why, in my opinion, and it's not the purpose of this call, our drug approval process is the largest fraud, one of the largest frauds perpetrated on the Canadian public that I can think of. But anyway, Health Canada had announced that by way of publishing in the Canada Gazette that they were going to impose a cost recovery structure on natural health products. And the fees that they were proposing were really close to the fees that the chemical drug companies pay. These fees are set out by regulations called the fee for drug regulations. And you would have heard us at the NHPPA saying, well, what they're going to do is they're going to come back, because what happens is you publish the proposal and you have a period where people can submit comments, and then you come back again with a revised proposal. And we were saying, well, they're going to come back with lower fees so that everyone can go, oh, okay, well, we can live with that. They've listened to us and lowered the fees. Where the real problem is allowing cost recovery at all. Because it's just, we can get you excited about cost recovery and the fact that you can lose products and the ones that survive are going to go up in price. But, if it's accepted at a low amount and then they've increased it 10% next year, we can't get the public excited that, well, the fees have gone up 10%. Like we basically have to fight the concept itself. Just politically, it's a problem and it gets in and they're just going to boil the frog. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. Is so the proposal now is no, we're going ahead with cost recovery. They're suggesting lower amounts than they had initially suggested, and then they're going to be stepping it up with increases over a 7-year period. Now, Veronica, you'll recall there were manufacturers on the phone. Well, some said, we're not going to be introducing products. We're going to stop in Canada altogether. And, others, like there were figures like, well, 40% to 90% of the products that we currently have on the market, we're going to drop because we're not going to be able to afford. Now, think about that. Even if it's the lower figure, 40%, and it's not the lower figure. But let's say it was. Let's say best case scenario, just this one part of the self-care framework, you're going to lose access to 40% of your products. Well, understand the prices of the other 60% are going to be going up dramatically because they have to rise because the costs to the manufacturers have gone up and the distributors, and margins are tight. So they'll either go out of business or they'll raise the prices. And our prices are so high compared to the US that doesn't have this regulatory burden that a large number of us can't afford them anyway. So, for many Canadians, we're already there. Economically disadvantaged people don't have the luxury. So, and that's just one part. They haven't even factored in, like Health Canada made it clear, they've done no basically costing analysis. Well, when we impose the new regulations, what's the cost to a manufacturer for that? Because when you increase new burdens, your costs go up. Let's say you're a carpenter and all of a sudden the government says, well, you have to pull a trailer that weighs 2,000 pounds, your gas costs go up. I mean, I'm just making an example up, but when you have to hire more staff and, get different, levels of scrutiny involved, your costs go up. Everything goes up and those costs need to be factored in. So we're not here to talk about all the aspects of the self-care framework, but this one alone is likely enough to destroy the industry. And so we have the opportunity to comment again. And that opportunity to comment has been extended to March 25th. And we're inviting all of you to comment on that and, make it clear that you don't want any cost recovery and that this is a train wreck. And the irony is, so they haven't even, we pay well, no, I live in Alberta, we don't pay. We pay GST. So everyone across the country pays GST on natural health products. And it is likely that, because the industry is going to go under, that the government will lose more revenue overall with losing that GST income than they're going to collect in fees. But, if it made sense, it wouldn't be government.
So I have put in the chat the link to that consultation form where you can give your feedback about these changes to cost recovery. there was a few questions that came in the chat. Sean, you said March 25th. It's a May 25th. We passed
Oh,
March
yes.
25th. So just to
Thank
clarify
you.
for everyone, we have another month. So May 25th is that deadline. So you're able to hop through that link and provide your feedback up until May 25th. Okay, very
Well,
good.
why don't we move into questions and answers then?
Yeah, I think that would be great. There's a few that have been sent in already in the Q&A box, but if anyone else has questions, please go ahead and pop them in there. And then I do have a few that were sent in advance as well, that I thought we could go through. So one that was sent in advance from someone named Thomas. He says, I'm a Canadian resident and I make and sell herbal products. If my business is entirely online and I sell to the whole world, I'm wondering if legal restrictions would work. He says, are the recent changes only for in-person NHPs? He doesn't understand how he could filter selling to non-Canadian residents via his website. So basically the question is if these new NHP policies affecting us in Canada would apply to him if he's selling to a worldwide global marketplace.
Well, if you're selling to Canadians, you have to be in full compliance. So, in the very least, you better be blocking Canadian IP addresses. But, if they get through, you can be, subject to enforcement action, including these fines up to $5 million for selling without a license. It's just, one obvious violation that comes to mind. So, yeah, it's problematic. But in theory, depending on what your products are, because some products like biologics, you now need to have a site license even for export. But most likely you're not. That's not what it is. So for what you're talking about, you're likely okay, providing you truly are not advertising or selling to Canadians.
Right. In the Q&A box, Melanie sent in a question that says, do these $5 million per day fines also apply to practitioners?
Yeah, they apply to anyone who violates any part of the Food and Drug Act or regulations. So, a lot of practitioners sell natural health products. So you're selling one, that isn't complying with the new label requirements. You now are technically in violation. Now, you're not going to get a $5 million fine for that. It's going to be a lower fine, but it's still going to sting because the problems the courts have are, so let's say you're there with a label violation, or no, let's make it really scary, right? And I'm just, having a little bit of mischief here, but let's say you're selling a product without a license. So that means you haven't proved to Health Canada that it's safe. Ooh, let's just ignore that this is a recent thing and that for most of our lifetime, except for the last few years, you didn't need a license at all. And so you never had to prove anything. And south of the border, they don't have to prove that it's safe or effective. And we don't see any problem there. But now you're in court and the Crown's saying, justice or your honor, this person's selling products that have not been proven to be safe to Health Canada. Now, we don't have any evidence that, anybody died or was seriously harmed, but this is just so reckless. It's great. And this is exactly what a Crown attorney would say. And the judge is going, well, okay, this isn't a worst case scenario. I don't have evidence of a whole bunch of people dying or being hospitalized. Like, I just don't know. And that would be like a $5 million. So, where are we? Is this like $1 million fine? Is it 1.2 million? Like, do you see the problem here? It's a problem because you're selling a product that has not been proven to be safe by Health Canada, and that's terribly reckless. So, yeah, so the fines do apply to natural health practitioners, anyone that, is selling or advertising a product. Boy, you advertise vitamin C to help mitigate the effects of chemotherapy. Well, that claim hasn't been approved by Health Canada. Boy, and you're dealing with, now I'm a Crown attorney in court, and Your Honor, people dying of cancer are the most vulnerable people out there because many of them know that it's terminal, and they will turn to any snake oil salesman offering them even a whiff of hope. And this defendant is making claims that, you know, are not proven. I think this should be $3 million. We are getting close to, in fact, it should be $5 million. There should be punitive damages. This is so outrageous. And that's exactly what a Crown attorney would say.
We can circle back around to the previous question about selling herbal products. Thomas is actually here live with us, so he put a clarification in the chat. He said the core of his question is rooted in wondering if the fact that he is located, producing, and distributing from within Canada, but only distributing to non-Canadians. Is your opinion still the same, that that would be
No,
okay?
no, that's the whole point, is if you're not selling or advertising in Canada, and you're not in a special class of products that needs a site license, even if it's fully for export, and that's not the case with NHPs, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, I have an anonymous question here. Going back to the idea of practitioners, this person's building on that. Would reps or contractors be held liable for selling local NPN approved products for an employer, manufacturer, or supplier? So could those fees potentially apply to a representative for a company as well?
Oh, you mean the cost recovery fees?
Cost recovery fees, but also the $5 million per day fines.
Oh, the fines apply to anyone who violates the act and regulations. So, you know, if you're advertising or selling, and just so you know, selling includes giving without value, right? So if you're an, you know, employer and you were providing to your employees, for example, you know, because you ship them up north each winter and you give them vitamin D. That's selling. It applies to anyone.
Okay. I've got a comment in here saying this person is named Naomi Hunter. She says that she's the leader of the Saskatchewan Green Party, and she's attending the Zoom today from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Her understanding from speaking to Elizabeth May's staff is that, of course, the federal Green MPs will speak for natural health and vote accordingly as well. So I thought I would share that comment that she's put in here.
And Naomi, I was expecting the Green Party to support Bill C-368, so thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. And we had an anonymous question that sort of speaks to that last comment there from Naomi. If our MP is not liberal, i.e. the government majority, how effective is it going to be sending them letters and postcards and so on?
Well, okay. So first of all, I mean, if they're NDP or Bloc, I mean, clearly this is important. Now, so I think the question really is directed towards the Conservatives. Oh, I have a Conservative MP. So, but I still think it's key to just flood them all, because what if the Conservatives are the next government? In fact, we're all expecting that to happen. And I know people that are just downright giddy thinking that that's going to solve our problem. And I think back to Bill C-420. So, and for those of you who aren't aware of that, so we weren't regulated as drugs until July 1st, 2004, when our natural health product regulations came into force. Prior to that, it was clear that we were going into this drug model, and many of us in the industry were really concerned about this. And so I had helped draft a private member's bill called Bill C-420 that just simply did what they did in the United States. It moved natural health products into the food category. So you're out of the drug model. You don't need to get government pre-approval. And the expectation then would be that we would have ended up in a situation that the United States has under their Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. So this bill gets into committee. It was introduced by then Alliance MP James Lunny. one of the few bills in Canadian history that, gets into committee, gets past second reading into committee, and an election is called. So then we have Alliance MP Colin Carey, introduce it as a private member's bill. It gets into committee again. It's in committee, and an election is called. Now we have the Conservative Party for this election. Stephen Harper is their leader. As part of their official election campaign was to enact Bill C-420. They get elected, they don't, and they introduce Bill C-51 in March of 2008 that, we all organized to fight against, and now we're still fighting because that's these $5 million a day fines that are now being imposed on us. So we won that round. And it wasn't until 2015 that they got in for pharmaceutical companies, but not natural health products because of your action. And here we are. So the point I'm making is everyone thought they were going to be our savior last time, and nothing happened. And what I learned from that is that this isn't coming from Health Canada. This isn't coming from our bureaucrats, this insatiable desire to regulate us out of existence by putting us in the drug model and saying we have to comply fully with the chemical pharmaceutical requirements. It's coming from above that. And the Ministry of Health is so powerful, and these initiatives are so powerful that it doesn't seem to matter which party is in power. It still marches ahead. It just might march a little slower, but everything's escalating in the world. So, I'm not hopeful, but I definitely think we have a better chance if every Conservative MP understands they're not getting elected next time. If they double cross you on this one. So I think it's even more important to be sending the 10, to Conservative. If they're probably the most important people to put, the fear of the citizen in over this issue. So I think I answered that question.
Okay. Tanya, I'm sorry, I don't know which, sent in a question here. She said, Health Canada has mentioned that they will disregard any comments on the consultation that are completely opposed to cost recovery. Do you have any recommendations around how to respond in light of this?
Okay, so let's be clear about some things. And Veronica, you were at that meeting, the cost recovery meeting. I mean, it was, their behavior was awful. So, they made it clear we're not reducing these fees. They actually came out and said, like, we need them. Like, we need the money. We haven't looked into how this will destroy the industry. We haven't looked into the detrimental effects. We just need the money. And they also made it clear we're not bending on that self-care framework. We're not bending an iota. We are pressing ahead. It doesn't matter. We can have 1 million Canadians die. They haven't said that, but they will not do a risk analysis to see what the cost is in, health impacts. You got over 70% of Canadians regularly using these products. And everyone on this call knows, wait a second, some of us are only alive because of them. And others, we've got chronic conditions often caused by the chemical pharmaceutical drugs. And we would be sick as dogs or disabled if we couldn't manage them effectively on natural health products. So what is the health cost of taking these treatments that we are having to pay for and we're voluntarily pursuing away? And they will not look into it because this isn't about health. This has always been about protecting intellectual property rights. It's always been about money. I'm beginning to believe, with just the way the world is going, that it's also, there's an element of just control for the sake of control. Otherwise it's quite hard to understand what's going on. So this train is just marching ahead regardless. And so, of course, they're not going to listen to your comments, but you're creating a record. And that record, I think, is going to be valuable. We're going to win this. And it may be that some people are going to be held to account after this. And so your comments and your record and your voice are just as important because they're not heard than when they are heard. And, and we have to yell so loudly that we're heard, and we're not there yet because it hasn't got bad enough yet for us to be loud enough yet.
So I want to look at this question. Tanya had said, any recommendations on how to respond in light of this? Do you have any thoughts on specific ways to respond in that feedback form?
Well, why don't you write to the MPs directly, and or not the MPs, the bureaucrats. And they hate getting letters, and I can tell you, the word is they're feeling very stressed over this self-care framework internally. And moral distress is a wonderful thing, because we need some of these people to crack and come clean about what's really going on, so that we can really get public opinion changed and moving. So phone them, demand an in-person meeting with them, write them letters, multiple, like put pressure on these bureaucrats. Well, I don't know. I just see on chat, who are these bureaucrats? I mean, maybe we'll come up with the names and try and make it easy, and you can also, usually there's a contact name. So, yeah, do the submission form, but use that contact, and you can just call the government, information service and get the mailing address at Health Canada. And you can just very quickly go to the Health Canada site and get the department heads. So, write the department heads. But create, I mean, and we're just brainstorming here. I'm just answering a question on the fly. But I mean, this is all about, we all have to do this peacefully. Our only option here is to create enough peaceful pressure that they relent. Well, when are we going to reach that level? It's going to create a lot more, like, think about this. This is all logical. I mean, we're talking about peaceful pressure. So they're telling us clearly at that meeting, they're not feeling enough pressure to relent. They were clear. Everything in that self-care framework is going ahead, and they know that means all of your products are taken away. Listen, there might be vitamin C on the shelf and small, but for all intents and purposes, we're done. So they know this, and they're pressing ahead anyway, because it's not about health. So that just tells us that we haven't created enough peaceful pressure to force them to turn around yet. Okay, so we need more. And we need all of you to be even thinking of ways to do this. This isn't, we're going to come up with campaign after campaign after campaign. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to come up with your own ideas too. Like, you have to get it through your head. Support organizations like us financially. For those of you that aren't, and I also talk about the podcasters and all of that, we can't resist unless we're supporting those that, are trying to make this happen. It just, don't fool yourself. So you have to be responsible. And I'm not just talking about the NHPPA, but with you have to support them financially. We're in a war, and this is life and death. I mean, truly. And you also have to get it into your mindset. Wait a second. I can't spend half an hour a week on this. Oh, NHPPA has an initiative. I'm going to sign an e-letter, and I'm going to fill in a petition form. No, you need to be spending is 5 hours a week enough? No. Is 10 hours a week enough? I don't know. Are you working full time? If you're not, it's not. If you're not working full time, it should be 40 hours a week. And, even if you're spending 40 hours a week for your first week, figuring, what the heck am I going to do? By the second week, you're already going to be doing things like this. You have to get in your head that you are a soldier in a war, and you don't have the luxury of taking any time off.
All right. We are going to do, I think, 2 more questions, and we'll wrap up for the evening. We want to be mindful of everyone's time. I have one question in here from Amanda. She says, we sell herbal tinctures, combinations that are made by an herbalist. Is this practice going to be affected by new regulations?
Well, are you making therapeutic claims? Likely. I mean, it kind of sounds like you're already in trouble because you're asking the question.
I wonder too, Sean, if you can speak a bit to that compounding exemption and what we would expect under the self-care framework with that.
Oh yeah, no, that one's an interesting one. Under so under the natural health product regulations, because of the way the term manufacturer is defined, it allows a practitioner. So I like to use traditional Chinese medicine doctors as the example because this is how they practice. You go in there and they assess you and they will actually make a remedy just for you. Like you go into one of their traditional, a traditional practitioner. I mean, they got all the herbs and they literally make it for you. Well, under our current regulations, they don't have to get a product license and have a site. They're basically exempt because it couldn't work. I mean, you just can't do it any other way. So that's been allowed. Now, Health Canada has not publicly, even though, we've called them on this. Well, under the self-care framework, are practitioners like traditional Chinese practitioners going to be able to compound for their patients? They will not say. When like they have, on the self-care framework page, I mean, I haven't checked for a few months, but a contact person, and every time I've emailed and asked, I haven't gotten an answer. Now I forget who now, but I mean, I know within the last 6 months, somebody got back to me and said, oh, they replied and said, no, it's going to be safe. But I haven't gotten that response. One person told me they got that response. And I would think if they were planning on having that in there, they'd publicly say so because it would calm down all the traditional Chinese practitioners. So I don't know. Nobody knows.
All right. And Anne sent in a question, which is one that we get every month, every time we do an event. So I think it's an important one to cover. She says, are we able to order product from the States and have the health products make it through customs?
You might as well ask me if the stock market's going up because my answer, how am I going to know, right? Right now, in theory, you can still import products from the States. I still do now and again. Other people on this call do now and again. But we also know that, every month that goes by, fewer manufacturers from the States are willing to do it because enough shipments get turned around at the border and often opened and the seals pierced. And even if that doesn't happen, you can't restock them because they've been out of your control for you don't know what's happened to them, right? So it becomes costly. You got to refund the money. You've lost the product. Your staff's gone through the hassle of shipping it out and having to receive it again and all the accounting and bookkeeping and headaches. So manufacturer after manufacturer or shipper after shipper have decided not to do it, but many still do. And how long that will last, they haven't closed that. I'm actually quite shocked that they haven't just made it law that you can't import something that doesn't comply with Canadian law. But the Food and Drug Act is meant to be a commercial act. So, but still, I'm surprised because slowly they've been tightening up everything else.
Patricia in the chat says, don't give them any ideas.
Oh yeah.
How
Well,
they
I
can
mean, the
tighten up
self-care
the
framework will
border.
do it anyway. So, but no, good point, Patricia. Let's touch wood here, everyone. And
All right. Thank you, everyone who sent in your questions. Sean, do you want to say anything final to wrap up tonight's call?
well, no, but just thank you for being here. Like we enjoy these calls and we enjoy the questions. And, we started these calls just because we realized, we're all part of a community and we don't want you to think we're some silo or anything out there and feel free to email us and the whole thing. And if you come up with good ideas, share them. I mean, we all know what the goal is. It's to create enough peaceful pressure that they'll relent. And we all don't see any change. So we know we need to do more, and so we just have to come up with every idea we can. Please, if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, subscribe because that's, we only send out like, I think 27 emails a week. It's not like we flood you. No, I'm just kidding. Is it even one?
Usually every week, maybe every
Yeah.
10 days.
Yeah, so we're probably not even one a week on average. So it's not like we flood you, but it's when we do tell you about these initiatives and get other people to subscribe. We're trying to create this army. That's why, we want any business owner, anyone with public space, or just a citizen, print out those, letter to citizens, which will direct people to our website. So we'll get more. Like we need to build this whole group of us. Like we need to double and triple and quadruple in size so that we reach that point of creating pressure to bring about change. And it's only going to happen with you. Like that's the thing, is understand it's only going to happen with you. So just figure out, well, what am I willing to do? Like, well, I'm not willing to drop off that letter in my neighborhood. I feel embarrassed if my neighbor sees me. Well, that's fine. Go to the other side of town where no one knows you and drop them off there. Like we all have our comfort limits. So figure out, well, what are you comfortable with? And what can I do? How can I make this happen? So, and you'll be surprised what you come up with.
Absolutely. So the last thing I would like to leave you folks with, I echo Sean's sentiments. Thank you for being here and participating the way you are. I'm going to put one last link in the chat. This is just the link to our homepage. We have a new video at the top of our homepage. It's 5 minutes. It gives a great overview about the self-care framework, cost recovery initiatives, what is going on with natural health products in Canada, and 7 ways that you can get involved with all the information that you need to know. So if you're looking for a way to get involved, that's a great resource for you. And it's a great way to share that with your communities as well.
And also social media. So if you're not following us on social media, follow us, and then I'll just use Twitter as an example, then retweet our stuff. Like just get in the habit of going, oh yeah, I need to be trying to leverage in, the ways that I can, what, the NHPPA is doing, because we need to reach people we're not reaching. That's the point. And each one of us has our own network and sphere of influence. And, really access to natural health products is something so many people rely on, that, you're not going to be upsetting anyone by retweeting. We're really reasonable and in our messaging, because all we have to do is tell the truth. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm concerned, right? So
Right. I see lots of words of thanks in the chat here, Sean. Looks like everyone had a great hour, learned a lot, and appreciate everything that we've shared. So that's lovely to see. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. And we'll be doing this again next month with even more updates.
yeah, no, and thank you. I mean, if you guys weren't attending, it wouldn't be exciting for us. And so thank you for attending, because, we have to feel like we're connecting, and we have to feel part of a team. And so we really appreciate the encouragement and your attendance and participation. So on behalf of our team, thank you.